I mean, Shimon, Simon went to Israel.
Oh, right. You're allowed to read.
I hear
Channel 11.
you. Okay. We're in 31B. 31B. 31B3. So we're talking about the Tanya. We learned in the Bright, in the middle of the first column, Keravai Hoylol Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer had a vineyard where he had the fourth year produce. You have it, Asad?
Yeah.
And where was he? It was located in Mizrach Lod. It was the east of Lod, beside Kfar Tovi. It was near the Kfar Tovi, and therefore it was within the boundary that we said that if you're within a day's travel from Jerusalem, you were not allowed to redeem the fruits, the fourth year fruits. This is talking about the fourth year grapes of the vine. That we said that the fourth year of the new vine, you have to take the fruits to Jerusalem and eat in Jerusalem, the produce. The first 3 years, Arlo, you can't eat it. The fourth year, you take to Jerusalem and eat it. We said that
Just remind me, that's for you.
a new
For
tree, a new tree, right? And we said there's this argument, does this apply to all new trees, that the fourth year produce has, olives, pomegranates have to be brought, other tree, apples have to be brought to Jerusalem to eat? Or is it just the grapes that have to be brought to Jerusalem? Could you eat the apples, the fourth year apples outside of Jerusalem or not? But what's clear, everybody agrees that the fourth year grapes have to be eaten in the old city of Jerusalem. Now, there is a law that if something grew outside the old city and it's outside the old city, you could technically redeem it onto money and then take the money and buy stuff in the old city with the money, buy certain foods that you could buy with the money. Because let's say it's hard for you to carry the fruit if you're outside of Jerusalem. However, the rabbis made an enactment that we said that if you are within 1 day of Jerusalem, that means when you leave Jerusalem of 1 day's travel, they said you cannot redeem the fruit. They wanted you, even though technically according to Torah law, if you're outside the walled city, you're a step outside the walled city, you could redeem the fruit and carry it in if you want. But they enacted that if you're within 1 day's travel of the old city, you cannot redeem the fruit. They wanted you to bring fruits to Jerusalem. Good morning, Nathan. Welcome back. Great to see you back. We're just talking now about the fourth year produce, which is of a vineyard. That the fourth year you planted a vine, the grapes, the first 3 years we know is early, you can't use it. But the fourth year, if it's a grape product, there's a question what about other products, but for everybody agrees grapes have to be brought to Jerusalem and eat in Jerusalem, similar to Ma'aser Sheni, that you have to take 10% of your crops during certain years of the Shemitah cycle and bring it to Jerusalem and to eat in Jerusalem. Now, technically, similar to Ma'aser Sheni, if you're outside of Jerusalem, you have a right to redeem it onto money. Let's say, like the pasuk says, if it's far for you, let's say you live far away, you live in a Bnei Brak, it's hard for you to carry the fruit from Bnei Brak to Jerusalem. It's not so practical, especially if you have a big, get spoiled the stuff or whatever it might be. The Torah, even if you're able to store it some fashion, the Torah says if it's too difficult for you to carry, redeem it onto money. So too, the Kerem Avai, the fourth year produce, you can redeem it onto money, bring the money to Jerusalem, and then buy certain foods with it in Jerusalem. The rabbis made an enactment that if you are within 1 day's travel outside of Jerusalem, it's not more than a day, we're not going to let you redeem it. You're going to have to carry the actual fruits into Jerusalem. And why? Because we wanted that the markets of Jerusalem should be full with fruits. So there's a question in the commentaries, what from beauty, right? It's an honor to Jerusalem. It's an honor when you go into a shop. I think Nixon he brought the head of Russia at his time into a random shop. Brezhnev into a Brezhnev shopping mall, and he said, "Wow, it's unbelievable what's going on here in America. See, this really works. You know, if you see so much beautiful, so much stuff, it's fully stocked. So that's the beauty of a country that you have food on. It's full with stuff. So therefore, if you would be bringing your actual fruits, so therefore there'll be a lot of fruits. There'll be a lot of supply in the stores because you're not using, you're not buying from that store. If you're bringing your own fruit, so that will be for beauty for Jerusalem. That's how some understand that will be.
So
They force
forcing the owner to sell
or the first in order to carry their merchandise, their grapes within a day, so they'll come into Jerusalem with their actual grapes, and therefore the normal markets that have grapes will have a lot of grapes still waiting to be sold. It'll create a larger supply in Jerusalem. But if they would take the money with them, and they would buy the grapes, and then they'll buy off the stuff that's in Jerusalem. There'll be a very small amount of fruit in Jerusalem. Yes.
So let's say you bring your
Grapes.
grapes,
Right.
how are you selling it to a storekeeper rather than?
We're not saying you're selling stuff. You're eating it. You're eating it. You eat it there, just like my suggestion. You eat it. You could give it to your family to eat it. You could give it away to people to eat it.
But how does that make stores more full of bread?
Because therefore you're not buying. You're not depleting.
Grapes are showing up in the marketplace. It's not the guy from more than a day away.
Right.
Sold it.
Right.
And brought it to you. And it's not your grape. Less than a day
So
away.
right.
Where
So all the grapes that
sitting in the marketplace?
so that all the grapes that grew in Jerusalem are there. Grew in Jerusalem, naturally grown,
And not fourth-year crops.
and not fourth year crops. Right. Okay. Remember, fourth year of a new tree. Now, fourth year of a new tree. It doesn't happen every time. You know what I mean? It's not all the time.
7, 6 of the time.
What do you mean? You can have a tree for 100 years, right? If it's the fourth year of the tree, so the tree can be 100 years old. So it's once in a lifetime of the tree. You see what I'm saying?
So anytime you plant a tree and then it gives off fruit, it's the fourth year of the fruit.
Right. Fourth year of that.
20 years for the tree to grow and then it's.
No, but it's from the planting of that tree. See, it used to be, by the way, the Sefer Chinuch explains, the Torah says you can't eat the fruits the first 3 years of the tree. He says, interesting, that, you know what, most of the time the fruit is not healthy the first 3 years of a tree.
Right.
It's a young tree. And he suggests it could be, it's not, Torah didn't give a reason for the mitzvah, but he suggests that maybe the Torah wants to protect your health. And therefore, since the fruit of the first 3 years is not healthy, it's not, the Torah didn't give a reason. It could be 1,000,001 reasons for the mitzvah. But he suggests that possibility, that the first 3 years are not so healthy, the fruit. The Torah wants you to eat healthy. So the Gemara says, so what was the story? So the story was the following. Vitanya, we learned in the Braita. So Rabbi Lezer had a vineyard, and it happened to be the fourth year produce of this new vineyard. And it was within a day's travel to Jerusalem. So if you're within a day's travel to Jerusalem, morning, David, with a day's travel to Jerusalem, you cannot redeem it outside Jerusalem. You have to bring the actual fruits to Jerusalem. That was the enactment. But it was too hard for him. He didn't want to, it was too hard for him to bring the fruits. So what did he want to do? He wanted to make the fruits hefker, to make it available. He's ownerless, but only for the poor people. He wanted that the poor people should go ahead and take the fruits, and they'll bring it to Jerusalem. Now, in the commentaries, they point out this is a matter of dispute, because when you make something ownerless, you have to make it ownerless both to all people, rich and poor. Is that called hefker? I say I'm giving up this thing, but I'm only giving up this thing to the poor community. would that be considered I gave up ownership, or or like my Pesach, I give up my chametz before Pesach, I'm making it available, someone to make it available to the world, or I have to give it, or I have to the world, or is it enough to make it hefker for the poor people? So
When poor people or your neighbor doesn't bring it to Jerusalem, what?
no, yes, let's say you're saying you say this fruit is, I'm telling everyone it's sanctified, it's holy
You're
fruit.
putting aside, this is for your fruit.
This for I'm telling people this is for I have 4 year. Right, I'm making an announcement. I have fourth year fruit. Anybody, a lot of poor people. There's always poor people around. They will come and they'll take it. Take it.
Are you not someone walking in front of the blind person? Someone comes and takes it, decides to.
Rest, I think whatever. So I think you're supposed to notify. You're supposed to be there.
You're still putting this on the block.
I mean, we're literally a blind person. What do you mean?
A person might be hungry and doesn't have willpower to wait.
I mean, I mean, obviously, if we're talking about religious people, and that they kept the laws. We're talking about a situation people are keeping laws, and therefore he's not so concerned that people are just going to not follow. Like if they have their own, every time a person has their own grapevine, are we going to be worried that he's going to violate the law and eat something it's not kosher for him to do? So he has, there's a law. The Torah says you have to eat it in Jerusalem. So therefore, but he goes like the opinion of Beis Shammai.
Where for the corners of your field, and even if you put up a sign that said that this is for the poor person in the corner, the Gemara wasn't worried that someone else might come and take that corner. Didn't we have that case last year?
I'm not sure.
We did. It may not have been in this one.
So the halacha does not follow this opinion, but this is the opinion of Beis Shammai. This is the opinion of Beis Shammai that you consider this, number one, that you have the ability to make it hefker, and number two, and you have a right to make it hefker just for people. We hold in order to make something hefker. I mean, see, number one, he says the halacha is that you're not allowed to. We hold you can't make hefker this fruit because we hold it has a status of holiness. If it's holy, I can't make hefker something that's holy. Independent, I think, of your concern that maybe someone might come as a stumbling block, but I can't make something hefker because it's not mine to make it hefker. It's called momen gavoha, belongs to Hashem. It's sanctified. I'm saying I can't make hefker. It's not mine. This opinion holds that Ma'aseh Sheni is a question: what status does Kerem Rafai? Does this money of the fruit of the fourth year? Does it have a status that's like mine personal, that I can make it hefker, ownless, or it's considered holy that I can't? So this opinion holds that it's considered personal, I can make it hefker, I can make it ownerless, but we hold that you can't do that. But we're going now we're
what you're going to give to the Kohen, but you want to give it to your Kohen and not your Kohen.
Right, but it's holy, it's sanctified, but you have certain, we call that tovas hana. You have right to give it to who you want. But you can't make the truma hefker. It's holy. But that's the halacha actually says that regarding the fourth year produce, it also status holy. You cannot make it hefker. But this opinion is going with this following by Beis Shammai. You could make it ownerless. So he wanted to do that. Amrulo Talmidav, that his students said to him, Rebbe, meaning because Rabbi Eliezer was their Rebbe, Kvar nimnu chaverecha alav. Your friends, your colleagues already took a vote. And it voted regarding this case, this law of the fourth year produce, vetiruhu. And they said that you're allowed to go ahead and redeem the fruit of the fourth year that grew out, that's outside of Jerusalem. Because once something grew in Jerusalem, you cannot redeem it. But since it grew outside of Jerusalem, you could redeem it. And the enactment that they originally had, that if you were within 1 day of Jerusalem, you cannot redeem it, they said we're nullifying that enactment. Why? Because the reason for that enactment was that Jerusalem should be full of fruits. But Jerusalem now is destroyed. they're living in a time period that the second temple was destroyed. Therefore, there's no reason now for you to in its destruction. It's not a time. It doesn't make sense that we're gonna beautify Jerusalem with fruit at a time when the whole thing is the city is laid in ruins, and therefore you're allowed to go ahead and redeem it onto money, meaning you wanted to make it ownerless for the poor, so because you don't want it's too much difficult for you to carry it to Jerusalem. But now that you could redeem it, they nullified it. Your colleague said you're allowed to. They nullified the original enactment, and they said you could redeem it now, like the original Torah halacha, because it's outside of Jerusalem. So therefore, you don't have to make it ownerless for the poor. You yourself could keep it, redeem it onto money, and bring the money to what? To Jerusalem, and then buy certain food products with it. So man, who are you? Who is your friends that said that you're allowed to go ahead and carry it? Good morning, Mr. Shetrit. So who are your friends? So who are your friends that made that enactment that said that nullified the original enactment? So the Gemara says that is Rabbi Yochanan Mezakai. That was Rabbi Yochanan Mezakai and his bezdin. This is number 9. The Gemara is looking. The Gemara says there was 9 enactments that were made by Rabbi Yochanan Mezakai. He and his court instituted 9 enactments, and the Gemara says there's one opinion that says this is enactment number 9. The Gemara says the first 8 enactments, everybody agrees Rabbi Yochanan Mezakai said. There's a question on enactment number 9. Who was behind enactment number 9? So this opinion holds it was Rabbi Yochanan Mezakai who was behind this enactment. We're going to see in the Gemara is going to question. There's another opinion. Rav Nachman Yitzchak says the enactment that number 9 had to do with Lashon Shel Zehurit. It was the red thread that they would on Yom Kippur. Here we are before Yom Kippur. There was a special red thread that they would tie. And after they threw the so that's what we're going to see where they actually tied it. That's what we're going to see. And they tied this red thread, and a miracle happened that after they threw the goat off the cliff, if the Jewish people were worthy, the red thread turned white. So now we're going to have a little history about exactly what you asked me, Nathan. The Tanya, Barishona, in the beginning, Hayakoshrin Lashon Shazahurit, they would tie a string of red wool, long string of red wool, al petach ulam b'chutz, on the opening of the ulam b'chutz. That's the antechamber going into the Beit HaMikdash, going into the building. Before you entered the actual place where the menorah was and the other utensils, there was something called the ulam. And on that building, before you entered into that building, the doorway of the antechamber, they placed this red piece of red string, red wool string that they would go. That's where they would place over there, a red strip of wool. Now, what happened was, and it was on the outside. It was on the outside, so everybody could see. If you're outside, it's on the outside of the building of this ulam. And Hilbin, if it turned white, if it turned white, the people were very happy. But lo Hilbin, obviously, if it didn't turn white, the people were very lo hayasmechim. They were hayatzevim. They felt very bad. That it's a sign. Good morning, Sam. It's a sign that their sins were not atoned. What happened that last year it turned white, and this year it remained red. So hiskinu. Therefore, the rabbi said, they said that it should be more on the inside of the entranceway of the ulam of that built the antechamber, not on the outside that everybody could see, more on the inside. And then people would look inside and they would see, and then they had the same problem. But what happened was sometimes Hilbin, sometimes it turned white, and hayasmechim, and they were happy. But loyal bin bin. But if it did not turn white, they became very saddened, and maybe in a certain sense, they did not put their effort into the rest of the day as much as they should, because if they see it didn't turn white, they felt maybe they're not answered. Maybe they gave up some of their focus and
Why would they say rather that they have not sufficiently atoned?
Well,
Why put it on?
because they saw last year they weren't, they did turn white. So they contrasted the list.
They better last year. They still up their game more rather than.
You mean they could have, you saying they could have used it for a positive to do more. But they felt, most probably they felt that the main kapara, the main atonement most probably was as a result of sending the goat to sending the goat off, sending the Sar Azazel. And since that main thing happened and they weren't atoned, maybe that's why they got them very upset, very saddened. Okay, I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. Back tomorrow at 6:15.
Probably have mine.